Those that don't know who I am, my name is Nayaswami Pranaba, and I live at Ananda Village. And together with Lorna, we'll be giving service today. And it's a real joy to be here. It's just to see the old friends and new friends is always a remarkable thing. Parvati and I, my wife and I, who was supposed to be here with me, so I'll do a double thing today. We're the spiritual directors here for a number of years, back in another era. And it's nice always to return and to feel the vibration connecting again. So thank you for being here. I'd like to read to you from Paramahansa Yogananda's Book of Prayer Demands. O Spirit, beloved Father, Oversoul of the universe, Spirit of spirits, Friend of friends, teach me the mystery of my experience. Teach me to worship Thee in breathlessness and in deathlessness. In the fire of devotion, burn away my ignorance. In the stillness of my soul, come, Spirit, come. Possess me and teach me to feel Thy immortal presence in and around me. Come, Spirit, come. Come, Spirit, come. So it's very real, the emphasis in today's reading, that we really are, in our true identity, children of the light. But that's simple. It simply isn't easy, though. And the teachings of East and West point out that this dual experience that we have, that sure, it's pretty straightforward to understand that principle, but to actually carry it out is a whole other scene that is actually spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita, the holy scripture from India, in a wonderful way. And some of you know, maybe not all of you know, that the Bhagavad Gita is a tiny portion of the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata. But it's one of the most significant parts of the Mahabharata. And in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, it portrays the battle. And the battle is, the whole story of the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata is allegorical, even though it did take place historically. But on the eve of the battle, Arjuna, representing each and every one of us, each devotee, with his charioteer, Krishna, the Lord, they ride out in between the two forces, the forces of light and of dharma, and the forces of delusion and darkness. And although many of you have heard this part, read this many times in the Bhagavad Gita, it's a good thing to tune into it and pay a little bit more attention to it, in that this battle being allegorical draws many, many lessons for us. And in the way that it's presented, we have to really be conscious and aware to draw that lesson or those lessons into our own experience. Otherwise, it's just a wonderful and capturing story, but that's not its purpose. But in the beginning chapter, there's the variety of all the soldiers being described and so forth. And because the battle is an allegory, the allegory is that the battle is within our own selves. And the soldiers, the warriors, are the qualities within our own selves that are at war with one another. And so Krishna and Arjuna are between the two sides, assessing, holy moly, what is happening here? Because these qualities from both sides are allegorical and within our own selves, it gives us a clue as to, this is different than just a battle out there. This is the warring tendencies within our own selves. And so Arjuna, in looking at his opposing armies, who are all relatives because they're part of who he is, the qualities within himself, the qualities that are taking us away from our true nature, the desires, the attachments, and all the multitudinal variations on that. And it's said that the forces of light under the Pandavas, the 5 brothers led by Arjuna, are few in number. But what happens is that Arjuna, remember I said it's simple to understand we're children of light, it just isn't easy. Arjuna himself faces this head on. And seeing the array of his qualities on the other side coming to do war with him, he says to Krishna in a very despondent and discouraged way, how can I fight my relatives, those that I've known for not only this lifetime, but many, many lifetimes? And he says, wouldn't it be better to surrender? Wouldn't that be a better dharma than the dharma of slaying all these relatives, all these qualities within myself? And I'm sure not one of us has escaped that same test. We've all had it. And sometimes we have no idea that we've had that test, which is part of why it's not easy. But Arjuna goes on and on about that, this isn't really something I feel I can do. And at the end, or the beginning of chapter 2, he says to Krishna, I will not fight. Guess what? We've all said that. But it's an amazing thing about how Krishna responds. And it's a little phrase that gets overlooked in a lot of versions of the Bhagavad Gita, but the way that Paramahansa Yogananda emphasized it, it's a key. It's one of the keys to unlock the story of the Bhagavad Gita for us in our battle. And so Krishna, it says, as if smiling. And what that means, what that refers to, Krishna is on our side no matter what bad choices we make. Krishna is on our side. Just this little phrase, Krishna is smiling. So he has this benevolent smile to Arjuna. And then the remaining 17 chapters of the Gita are the conversation between Krishna the Lord and Arjuna the devotee. So it's a wonderful thing, but what it portrays is Arjuna, with that despondent doubt, is wondering what to do. And this is an interesting thing. It's described in those first few verses of chapter 2 of the Gita, that after Arjuna says, I will not fight, it's like watching a movie and think, oh no, geez, the head hero, what's happening here, It says that he slumps in the chariot and he releases the string of the bow that he has. And those things are very important, but often overlooked in the understanding of the Gita. That the unstringing of the bow is the spine not being activated in its energy. And then sitting down on his base chakra, his energies are lowered from the higher ones to the lower ones. And that's what happens. It's like that's the barometer that we carry with us on our spiritual journey. It's giving us evidence of what's going on if we pay attention. Where's the energy? Where's our focus? And we often don't get it. There's a point, I shouldn't say that word because it'll confuse you what I'm going to say, but there's a part in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali where he lists out the vritti. No, these are the, I can't remember the Sanskrit name. These are the delusions. There's vrittis, which are whirlpools of delusion. There's delusions, and then there's mental obstacles. So 3 levels of things that are presented in the Yoga Sutras. But one of the delusions is missing the point. Isn't that wonderful? Missing the point. We're right there. We're in front of Krishna. Arjuna's with Krishna. And in this case, it's an example for us to realize, there's more than just saying, I'll sign up and be on the right team. It's missing the point of what's really going on. And again, the conversation of the whole Bhagavad Gita for 70 chapters is allowing Arjuna to get the point. And there's a term that's used in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras that's really critical to this in the Bhagavad Gita. And it's good to have an understanding of both these great scriptures from India, the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras. And it's this term that we've heard in many ways in many different situations. It's smriti. And it simply means memory. But in the Yoga Sutras, there are 3 prominent different meanings for smriti. But the most important one is that it refers to divine remembrance. And what is divine remembrance? It's the remembrance, the memory of who and what we really are. We're truly the soul. And then all these qualities, we're the light. We're children of the light. We're children of that divine love. We're children of that bliss of joy. All these things are our true identity. And so Krishna gets Arjuna to realize what the point is. And then towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, there's this other striking phrase of Krishna speaking to Arjuna. So it's towards the end of this amazing conversation that is always taking place for you and I with the divine. And Krishna says, so I've revealed all of this for your sake, Arjuna, to help you to understand what the point is, and that your dharma is to fight, to overcome all the tendencies, the desires, the attachments that you carry with you. And after Krishna saying this, that I've revealed to you all these things, Arjuna, he says to him, take it as you will and do with it as you feel. Isn't that amazing? The divine is always saying, you get to choose to do this. I'm not going to demand this of you. I'm offering you this possibility. And actually, it's the variety of possibilities that lead towards the one possibility of true liberation. And to know that in the right way, the way that Krishna's relating to you and me through Arjuna, is always that the openness of the heart's invitation coming from God to be in our hearts back with God. Isn't that, it's so comforting, because we're going to get times when we feel we're just plowed under by delusion. Not only just sort of glanced a blow, we just feel like we've been toppled over. And that's part of the gift from the divine, that we feel, whoa, I can't deal with this. But then we realize we have that divine remembrance. But with the divine, with Krishna holding the reins of the steeds in the chariot, that will take us to God and oneness in our own experience of our soul nature. But that's a precious thing to realize. Even if we don't understand it in terms of assimilating that, the gift of having that given to us is something we just need to nurture, to open up to, and be with more and more. Because the reality is our destiny is like Arjuna, to fight the battle, to slay the opponents of delusion, no matter how well they are in battling us. You think of, I'm not a salesperson for this book, but The Hidden Story of the Mahabharata by Nayaswami Gyandev from Crystal Clarity Publishers is definitely a book I've enjoyed. Am I convincing anyone here? But what's interesting, of one of the characters, the qualities within ourselves, is his name is Karna. And Gyandev does a wonderful job of describing. Karna is a really complex character. But to simplify it so that you'll appreciate it, is that the quality that Karna represents, in a simple way of looking at it, is the desire or the attachment for human happiness. But he fights on the side of delusion. And indeed, he's a half-brother to the 5 Pandavas, the 5 brothers. And that weaves an interesting allegorical part for us to understand, in that there are parts of it that seem to be very high, divine parts of who we are. But because of the tendencies within those parts, they lead into delusion even more. So Karna is actually sometimes described as the strongest warrior on the battlefield, stronger than Arjuna. But his whole intent, through many parts of the story of the Mahabharata, his intent is absolute. It's to destroy Arjuna. Isn't that a fascinating thing? That the inclination or attachment to human happiness is one of the strongest warriors against our soul's return home to God. So it gives us some pause to reflect on that, and then to use Smriti, the divine remembrance, to cut through all these things that, but wait a minute, like Arjuna, wait a minute, human happiness? Of course I want that. But what's being brought to us is saying, human happiness, if there's an attachment to it, will be the strongest block to finding the bliss of God's presence. But if we use human happiness, and this is why Karna is a complex character for us, if we endeavor to be with human happiness in an expansive way, always remembering, this I offer to you, God, then we take the energy from Karna, from that tendency to have attachment to human happiness, and we grow in the experience of that expanded happiness into our oneness in God, into the true joy, that bliss of divine oneness. Isn't that a wonderful way to look at it? So we can battle Karna, but we do the battle by robbing Karna, and also Bhishma. Bhishma is the grand uncle, the grandsire of both sides, and he represents the ego. And so another fascinating part of who we are, because we think, let's just pummel the ego completely and we'll be free forever. Well, the ego won't actually ever be defeated that way. The ego has a boon. Bhishma has a boon in the previous stories in the Mahabharata, where he will only die when he chooses to. Nothing can annihilate him. Nothing. And so it's a fascinating part of our understanding is that, we can't destroy the ego in the way that we think we can. But how the ego is overcome is that we, focusing magnetically in the positive qualities, just like with Karna, that we have that magnetism that draws the energy from the ego. We transform ourselves into the flow of that energy that takes away what animates, what activates the ego. So we have not only encouragement, we have the real possibility of overcoming the ego in the way that will be permanent, because the energy is gone from the ego and it's now animating, activating our soul call. What a gift. What an amazing way to approach life, because we can then always have the choice of where do we move the energy towards expansion. Always. Whatever battle on the battlefield is happening. And the battles are numerous and endless, and they're kind of weird at times in the Mahabharata. So don't worry about the weirdness. Always think of, where am I going? What am I drawing from the divine? That's my own true nature. I am a child of the light. I am a child of the divine. How do we recall that? How do we really dynamically involve not only the memory as something that has happened, but the memory that helps us to be propelled into the expansion of soul qualities. So for each one of us, let's carry with us today, this week, this whole incarnation, that remembrance of what the point really is. And that's for us to offer ourselves completely into the grace of the divine and live as an instrument to touch many others. So many blessings.